5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can you start?
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today's virtual conference. My name is Frazier Martins, and I'm your host for today. Dun & Bradstreet, in association with Google Cloud and InfraBeat, is glad to present this virtual conference on a pertinent topic: cloud-based strategies to unlock insights, efficiency, agility, and innovation. Before we begin, I request everyone to please take a moment and go through the guidelines that have been displayed on your screen. We encourage everyone to ask more questions in this session. We request you to please type your questions in the Ask Questions section. These will be taken up in the Q&A session later. A couple of tips: we want to know you more, hence please mention your name and company name when you post your question. You can also mention the person you are directing the question to. As you can see on your screens, there is an Ask Questions section on the bottom of your screen. That'll help you converse better with the speakers. Now let's take a quick look at the flow for today's session. Please refer to the agenda displayed on your screens right now. A promising agenda with an eminent lineup of speakers. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome and thank everyone for being part of this virtual session today. Let's kickstart then with the opening speaker of the day. I would like to invite Mr. Nikhil Kanzode, Senior Cloud Solutions Architect, InfraBeat Technologies Private Limited, to share his insights with us. Welcome, Mr. Kanzode. Over to you.
Hi everyone, good morning. This is Nikhil this side. I hope all of you are doing well, and your family and you are all in good health. So I'm just going to share my screen. I hope I'm well audible to all of you. Yep. Can someone please confirm if my screen is visible? Hello? Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yes, Mr. Nikhil, it's visible. Yeah, Nikhil.
All right. Sure. So good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to cover certain aspects about how you can run SAP with agility on GCP. So I'm the practice lead for cloud infrastructure at InfraBeat Technologies, and I take care of migrations of SAP landscapes to GCP, as well as managing these workloads. Whereas I have my colleague Huzaifa Kanchwala, who's our cloud analytics architect, and both of us would be together talking about how you can run SAP with agility on GCP. So in the initial sections, I would be covering a bit about what we do at InfraBeat, what our skills and expertise are in, and how you can run SAP on GCP in a better way. And after that, my colleague Huzaifa would share some thoughts about, once you have migrated your SAP landscape to GCP, how you can do better with that, how you can get more out of your SAP with the power of advanced analytics that we have on this strong platform. So a quick overview of about us, or what we do at InfraBeat. So InfraBeat was founded in 2013 by a couple of ex-SAP members, and these guys were representing key positions in SAP with around 20-25 years of experience, having a good knowledge of different SAP suite of products, and that's where we established this organization. And over a period of 8 years, we have had 300 plus employees, 100 plus customers, delivered 190 plus assignments, out of which there have been certain landmarks like 50 plus SAP SOH plus S4 HANA conversion projects, 45 plus cloud migration projects for SAP landscapes. And from a Google perspective, we were one of the earliest partners who were involved in the in different kinds of HANA migrations, or SAP migrations per se, to Google Cloud. And that's where we have achieved a premium partner status on GCP today. And what expertise we bring in on the table is, we understand infrastructure, we understand SAP, we understand the application, and we understand the database. So that's where bringing all these skills together is where we have our unique offerings called as Shift, which is like an SAP qualified partner package solution, and that's going to ease out all your migration worries by providing an end-to-end solution. From a locations perspective, our headquarters are based out of Pune, India, Along with that, we have different offices in India as well as global. So in India, we are having offices in Delhi and Bangalore. So Delhi is more from a north and east geography perspective, whereas our Bangalore office takes care of our south perspective, whereas Pune is the main delivery center wherein all the most of our consultants are based out of. And apart from that, we have different sales offices in Kentucky and Singapore for taking care of our offshore business in the Southeast Asia and North America landscape. From an offerings perspective, we are offering different kinds of services that fall under the SAP services or SAP products per se. So we are into implementations, migrations, rollouts, supports, and upgrades. And along with that, we are also providing cloud infrastructure services. So that includes things like cloud assessment, cloud migrations, managed services, cloud analytics, and DevOps. So by having certified consultants across all these different industry areas, we are able to provide our customers a one-stop shop wherein they don't have to rely on different parties for different things, and in a single place they get all the services that they need for any kind of SAP or non-SAP workload. And that is what has awarded us recently. So last year in the SAP ACE 2020, we received an award for one of the SAP migrations that was done to cloud for a company called Lion Brewery in Southeast Asia. So Lion Brewery has a majority stake in the brewery industry in the Southeast Asia, and they migrated their critical SAP instances to cloud, and Infrabeat was involved in performing the S4HANA conversion as well as the cloud infrastructure. And as a part of our second phase of the engagement, we also delivered certain analytic solutions. So that is where we were awarded with the SAP ACE Awards 2020 for this specific migration. And as a part of Infrabeat, we have something called as a Shift. So this is a SAP qualified partner package solution, and this allows our customers to have a complete end-to-end S4 HANA migration experience. So the typical key aspects which are involved in any kind of an S4 HANA migration, which includes the procurement of licenses, the conversion services, the cloud infrastructure and managed services, as well as hypercare support. So we take care of all these things end to end. There is no third party involved, and all of these things are taken care in house. We don't have to subcontract it to some other organization per se, because we have the skill sets to take care all of this in house. And we help you right from building a business case for your S4 HANA migration, along with the execution of that and the required services for cloud infra. And along with this, any enhancements that you want to do on top of your SAP landscape, like having things like the SAP Intelligent RPA or having embedded SAP analytical dashboards. So all these things are taken care as a part of our Shift offering. If I will quickly cover about the certain aspects of why SAP on GCP. So whenever any customer wants to move to cloud or they want to migrate their critical SAP instances on cloud. So today we have various options when it comes to hyperscalers. So where GCP brings in a differentiator is most whatever options you are comparing GCP with. So all those options are also they fall under the infrastructure as a service kind of a category. But where GCP brings in a differentiation is where the certain technical components which would stand out in comparison with other hyperscaler platform. So first and foremost, it is the SAP certified instances that we have. So all the instances which are available on GCP are certified by SAP, and you don't have to deploy these instances in any specific t-shirt size of a configuration. So we have an option called as custom VMs over here. You can tweak in the required CPU and memory, and depending on your exact requirements, your instances will be provisioned on GCP and they would still be certified by SAP. And the scalability options are so wide that the smallest certified instance that we have is smallest HANA certified instance that we have is a 208 GB instance, and that can go as large as 24 terabytes. So that's where the infrastructure for any kind of an organization is available over here, right from 208 GB to 24 TB. And similarly on the bandwidth aspect also, depending on the scale of data, scale of size, we are having dedicated connectivity options ranging from 50 mbps to 100 gbps. So that is the power of scale in this platform. Similarly, there are certain operation benefits which one can derive out of this Google Cloud platform. So this includes certain things like zero downtime infrastructure maintenance. So we have something called as live migration. So even though your instances are hosted on cloud, but they are still hosted on servers, and servers being servers, they require some kind of maintenance. But just because a cloud platform has to do maintenance doesn't mean that it's going to be a downtime for the customer, because we are able to have these zero downtime infrastructure maintenance activities using a technology called as live migration. Along with that, security is something which is built in the DNA. So at certain hyperscaler platforms, you have an option of enabling or disabling encryption. So encryption is no longer an option in GCP, it is something that is enabled by default. So any data that you're going to store in GCP, or any data is that's going to be in transit on GCP, is going to be encrypted by default. So that is something that is built on a security first approach. And similarly, there are other areas wherein you can innovate and transform your landscape better. So you can perform petabyte scale analytics using our warehousing tools like BigQuery. There are certain integrated APIs which are available in the platform, so you don't have to worry about the egress that is involved, because any data that is transferred within GCP is free of cost. So you don't have to worry about these egress scenarios when you're consuming APIs. And all these APIs will be consumed in a secure fashion by a technology called as private Google Access. So as an example, let's say your SAP instances want to connect to some Vision API which is available in GCP, and that needs to do some kind of an OCR for your transactions. So your critical transaction data is nowhere exposed on the internet when you're consuming these APIs. All of this is facilitated using the private Google Access, and all of this is built into the platform, and none of these add-ons are charged separately. It is something that is inbuilt. It is available as a part of the infrastructure which you are consuming. And along with this, where InfraBeat brings in the expertise on the table, is about the end-to-end managed services that we are providing for SAP applications. So while we are having different kinds of managed services options for different kinds of applications, SAP is where our key expertise is in. So from a infrastructure perspective, Google Cloud is going to take care of the underlying infrastructure, which includes the compute, storage, networking layer. But along with that, there are certain other services which usually fall under the customer's responsibility bucket. But that is something wherein we are going to play a role. We are going to offload that responsibility from your side, and we are offering it as a cloud managed services. So we have expertise in performing cloud managed services, which includes the administration of the cloud platform. Along with that, we are also having SAP basis managed services. So that includes taking care of the technical aspect of your SAP systems. So it includes things like monitoring, upgrades, system copies, security management, database administration. Be it any kind of a database which is supported by SAP, we have the skill sets required for that. And on top of that, if any customer requires any additional services like a functional AMS, version upgrades, implementations, rollouts, or even ABAP support for that matter, we are having all of this in-house. And it is something that is entirely managed by InfraBeat. And we are bringing this unique offering wherein anything that needs to be done for your SAP landscape is where the services are available. And finally, you're only a consumer of the application. So from an service kind of a model, it is something that can be visualized as a software as a service model, wherein a customer is only consuming the SAP landscape, whereas the entire management piece of it is taken care by InfraBeat, along with an SLA which is combined for the uptime of the application. So we don't differentiate between uptime for infrastructure, uptime for application, and uptime for the database. For us, the understanding of SLA is simple, that whether the SAP system is accessible or not. And that's where we are providing these end-to-end services. Yes, that's about it from my side, for giving an overview of the.
Thank you, Mr. Kanzore. What an informative session that was. I'm sure all the participating audience had some key takeaways from your session today. Moving on to the next speaker of the day, Mr. Josefa Kanchwala is Senior Solutions Architect, Cloud Analytics at InfraBeat Technologies Private Limited, and he will now share his insights with us. Welcome, Mr. Kanchwala. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Vijay. Hi, everyone. Very good morning. This is Josefa Kanchwala here from InfraBeat. So I'm a solution architect for cloud analytics over here at InfraBeat, and I majorly take care of all the analytics-based solutions. So as my colleague Nikhil has, spoke to all of you about the infrastructure capability, the migration from on-premises to on-cloud. Now, from here onwards, I'll be taking care of once you move to on-cloud, now what next? What are the cloud-based analytics ability, the features, the applications which are there available on cloud? So I'll be presenting some of those cases over here. So just let me know once you all are able to see my screen.
Yeah, go on, Nikhil.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So as Nikhil mentioned about about the cloud infrastructure capability. Now the question comes up with, first of all, since the analytics industry is quite boom, there have been a lot of shifting up to the cloud analytics platform these days. Everyone is adapting towards it. Now the major reason is why. Why are we moving to cloud analytics? The first and most important thing is the data size has been increasing. It's been exponentially increasing day by day. The organization earlier, if you compare to a few years back, now currently the data has been increasing on a day-to-day basis. It's been increasing. The size has been doubling. So you need a lot more of infrastructures. You need a lot more of scalability. There's an increase in scalability in that case. One more thing is faster insights. Nowadays, there have been, a demand of, getting certain type of analytics to be done very quickly. There have been, the demand keeps on changing very frequently. The requirement of those insights on top of the data keeps on changing very frequently. So business needs a very faster and very quicker insights these days. So for that, we cannot, invest very heavily on the development, wait for all the development process to get completed and then, get the results. So we have a lot of, tools and technologies which are now available. All the skill sets are now available on the cloud platform, which helps you to deliver all your solutions on the go. It's more kind of like a plug and play top of a solution, which, you can use to deliver all your requirements for the business. Another point is the easier maintenance. It is, quite easy. You need a resources for the day. You get it done. You deploy it, and then if you don't need it, you just quickly delete it. Okay, you are not investing more from the development perspective again over here. But overall, the entire things again, an organization who focuses and who believes into a data-driven approach, so it helps them to make a stronger and a better decision making. So that is, I think, one of the core reasons why all the organizations are shifting towards cloud analytics these days. So the main problem over here is, firstly, what are the certain challenges which are there on-premises and how we are, resolving those challenges using our on-cloud solution. So just to speak about certain numbers over here, the current investments, if we talk about, in terms of analytics, is somewhere around, 20-25 USD billion dollars, which is, since a lot of organizations are now, investing into the analytics. It is also expected, to move to double or triple in coming few years. The major reason is the organizations, they are adopting the AI and ML capabilities. They are, each and every business has now been, implementing any sort of machine learning or deep learning or some AI-based solutions to help solve a lot of problems. So that is, I think, one of the prime reasons of, why this industry is really booming. If I talk about certain on-premises analytics challenge, cost structure is one of them. Computing power is there. Then you have an organizational change. The demand keeps on varying. Technology strategy, a lot of things comes up, comes down over here. So you have to accordingly, keep on changing your development models, and a lot of things keeps on changing based on a lot of upgrades and all. New business models. So why SAP and GCP are better together? That is one of the main questions over here, that what GCP provides with the help of SAP, how it can add some more value in your decision making. Seamless integration, I would say first, in terms of integrating with any of the SAP modules. It can be SAP, ECC, HANA, or any. There's a seamless integration, all sort of connectors which are directly available. There are a lot of pre-built accelerators, I would say, which are built for SAP. Those are like some work templates, some specific jobs which are, to be run. So you do not have to again go on and, move to the development part and, invest more time on the development. All the accelerators, all the connectors are readily available. Certain modules, specifically if you talk about building your dashboards and reports using BigQuery or maybe using Looker, there are specific let's say about a procure to pay or an order to cash or sort of, blocks. Those are already built, predefined on GCP. So that's how GCP overall helps along with SAP. Now, smart analytics is one of the context of GCP, which overall gives you an idea about You can analyze your data at any scale if you want to. You can analyze your data, what next it's about to come. So you can see all the services, specifically talking about from the analytics and database point of view, you can see all the services which are there listed on the screen. If you want to analyze your data in real time, anywhere, and by anyone within the organization, so based on all the security tools and a lot of things are there. By combining all those solutions, you can, build any sort of your requirement which can be fulfilled directly on the Google Cloud platform. Now, talking about the data management on GCP. So it starts with your data. First of all, you have a raw data. It can be from any source. It comes into a database, or it can be, from IoT, from different sensors, or it can come from any of the application. So Google has the ability to, capture data from all the different sources. It has the solutions, the connectors, which can help you to connect all the real-time data or the batch processing data from all the databases. Then, for any kind of analytics to be performed, you need to get your data transformed. You need a lot of business logics and, some complex business functions which are needed to be applied, since organizations do not have a single database. They work with multiple databases. They work with secondary and tertiary data. So they need to collaborate. They need a single point where you need to collaborate all your data at a single source. And from there, you want to, create certain analysis on top of that. It also provides you a lot of storage-based capability, whether it can be a semi-structured, structured, or unstructured data. Earlier, it was more about the structured data, but now everyone has been, getting a lot more insights even from the unstructured data, like it's some images, some video or audio files, or even from a lot of semi-structured data. So Google helps you to, store all your data at one single point. On top of that, you do all your analysis, whether you want to build certain set of dashboards or reports, or if you want to, implement any sort of an ML or AI-based capabilities, you can build everything on top of that. Who all can consume these reports? It can be anyone within your organization, whether someone is a business analyst, who can work with and, get a detailed requirement gathering, a BI engineer who can, design and develop the dashboards and reports, a data scientist or a data engineer who can actually, take care of this entire pipeline. Now, initially, if we ought to, begin with let's talk about, a start point of analytics. So how do I, initially kick off my analytics journey on Google Cloud Platform? Since there are so many tools which are available, so we have just bifurcated like how to begin with. Initially, within an organization, you might have data coming from sources. Let's take an example of SAP over here, or there might be a lot of flash files and different structured, semi-structured, and structured data to be over here. So how we manage the entire pipeline, the entire orchestration pipeline is, we start off by creating a staging layer where we temporarily store the data, which it can be any of the storage platform. Here we have taken an example of a cloud storage. And then Google has a lot of data transformation tools. So Data Fusion is there. Along with that, there are also different type of tools like Data Prep, Data Proc, and all of that, on which you do all your data transformation. You combine data from all the sources and, build a warehouse on top of that. Or else, let's say if you want to, create certain set of reports or dashboards. Along with that, there's also an auto ML capability where even if you do not, want to spend much on the development of your machine learning or deep learning models, Google has provided an auto ML capability where you just have to load all your features into your model, and Google and the solution will itself predict the output for you. It will give some predictions, forecasting for you. And then finally, on top of that, how do you want to visualize your data? You have Looker available for each and every, let's say for sales, finance, and for all the modules, you can, directly visualize your data on top of that. So this is how we kick off, and this is what we initially start off as an analytics journey. If we want to look at the complete picture from an overall organization point of view, it can be data coming from sensors. It can be data coming from any on-premises data or from any transactional source system. You have a stream processing. There's a tool called as PubSub, which has been available over here. Then you have a data flow, which is used for streaming your data, taking data from your database to your any warehousing solution, where if you want to build a data lake, you have a cloud storage solution available. Where if you want to migrate your entire on-premises data, it can be in terabytes or petabytes. And if you want to migrate it on cloud, Whether if you want to build a data lake or a database on cloud, you have transfer appliances, batch services, and all the different transfer services. Based on the size of the data, we'll decide which kind of transfer services we need to use. Again, for data mining and exploration, you have AI platform notebooks, you have data prep as a tool available, which helps, you get a platform where you can do the data mining. You can, quickly get some more insights of your data, and you can, put it back into your ML training model where you can build some AI-based solution. You can do some sort of predictions. You can store your prediction again into a BigQuery warehouse. For a database point of view, like the Google Cloud Platform has, solutions of Bigtable, you have Spanner. So these are your NoSQL and SQL-based databases. If you want to have a big data platform, let's say if you are having an on-premises Hadoop or a Spark-based big data platform and you want to migrate it completely on cloud, so you do it using Dataproc. So that's overall about the entire solution of the Google Cloud, which it provides you. Now, talking specifically about each of the solutions, how these solutions are helpful. So why Google Cloud Storage? So I think the main and the important point over here would be, to object lifecycle management, retention policies are there. You can versionize all your storage. So let's say your data keeps on drastically changing. So customers can manage your data. They can have your encryption key. Google itself provides a lot of encryption and decryption keys. Again, they encrypt the data again in a key encryption format. So the data is completely secured and can only be accessed by the authorized people. There is specific bucketing. If you want to create certain set of audits and logs, you can build it on top of Google Cloud Storage. So that is specifically more from, storing your data into a data lake, or maybe if you want to, archive your specific set of data. So for those purposes, you can use Google Cloud Storage. It helps you in terms of cost efficiency, whereas you can define different storage classes. Let's say if you use the data from those buckets very frequently, you can have a regional or a nearline. Or else, if you don't use your data very frequently, you can define a code line or an archival-based data bucketing. You can do that. So based on looking at all those features, I think Google Cloud Storage is like a defined tool which helps them to build a central repository for your organization. Now, once you get your data into a bucket over here in a Google Cloud Storage, now the next step is you do some sort of transformation. You combine data from sources. It can be from n number of data sources. As you can see, the data fusion is one of the tools for transformation, which helps you to integrate with almost 150 plus data sources. It's again a complete code-free self-service. So even if you have knowledge and skill set on data transformation, if someone is is not from a complete technical background but have the information on the data, they knows there's some sort of transformation or some basic joins or has to be applied. So there's a code-free self-service integration platform which helps you to just directly drag and drop all the transformation tools which are required and create an output solution. So that's how easy it gets by using data fusion. So this is one of the example. Again, I'll take one more example of a data flow that is again used on top of Apache Beam, which is used for some real-time and batch streaming processes. There are a number of templates which have been created for data lifting and shifting, for migration of data from on-prem to on-cloud. All the data transformation connectors, everything has been inbuilt in those tools as well. So this is specifically from the data transformation. Now, this is, I would say, is the heart of any of the analytics platform where you need a centralized warehouse solution which has to be built. So how Google has helped us in terms of by providing BigQuery as a complete cloud scale enterprise data warehousing solution. The best part about this solution is, it works completely on the standard SQL. So your existing database developers, can directly just, migrate it over there, write the same SQL queries which they used to write on maybe SQL Server or anywhere, and they can build your warehousing solution on top of that. This part is, it has got a real-time streaming. It has got the BI engine available. It has got the IoT engines available. It has got all the ML features which are built in available. So you do not have to rely on any of the different tools again over here. It provides insights for everyone. It gets very easily integrated with all the data transformation, all the connectors, and all the tools which are available. So it becomes your centralized data warehouse where you have your final reports, which on top of that you can perform your analytics. So that is how BigQuery helps in terms of building a data warehousing solution. And one of the key highlighting feature of BigQuery is, it gives a complete 360 view of your business. It has all the data. So all the data which is there as a raw data in the start is now completely processed and stored over here as a warehouse. You just have to take it. You just have to, build your analytics solution on top of it. That is again capable of achieving a scan up to 1 terabyte per second. So that's how fast BigQuery is. So that is from the data warehousing solution. If we talk from the database solution over here, so from a database point of view, Cloud SQL is one of the example of creating a relational database. Apart from that, there are also Cloud Spanner if you want to have a flexible database solution where you want to have your database over multiple regions, and it has to be horizontally scaled. So Cloud Spanner is again one of the tools. You have Bigtable if you want to store your NoSQL based IoT or somewhat data. The data which is in form of 1 to 10 TB plus of data. And if you want the latency to be very low, in that case, you can go with Bigtable. Also, there are Firestore is there if you want to have a document-based database. So a lot of database options are available, which you can use if you want to create and set up a new database, or if you want to migrate your existing on-premises database on cloud. The final tool which you have over here is after you build your warehouse, after you have all your data ready with you, you have to do some sort of analysis by building some sort of business intelligence dashboard or report on top of it. So Looker is the tool to go in terms of creating the modern BI and analytics platform where the organization gets a complete data-driven workflows, whereas you just have to write certain queries. It helps you to create automatically helps you to create visualizations on top of it. Again, the results are SQL based. So similarly as BigQuery, you just have to write your SQL queries, and accordingly Looker will help you to build your dashboards and reports. So I think that's all from a complete high-level overview about the Google Cloud Analytics. So I hope this session has been, an informative for every one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kachwala. That was a great insight indeed. We now move on to the next speaker of the day. I invite Mr. Srimurugan Veluswamy, SAP Sales Specialist for Google Cloud, to share his insights with us. Welcome, Mr. Veluswamy. Over to you.
I hope you're able to see my slide.
Yes, we can see your screen. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for taking out the time to attend. I know we're running short on time, so I will try to keep my presentation to within 12:10, maybe a couple of minutes more. So very quickly, Google today is ubiquitous, part of our lives. All of us use Google, customer applications for just about everything we do. But who is Google Cloud, right? So we have a global presence in 200 plus countries, and we have multiple offices in India as well. We've had a huge impetus on our sales presence in India in recent times, and we've grown our customer-facing teams by 3 times in just the last 2 or 3 years. As far as our global reach is concerned, you can see the number of zones and regions we have. We have 27 cloud regions all over the world with 82 zones under them, and with very significant investments in all the major undersea, fiber infrastructure. So we have 2 regions now in India. So any concerns that customers have about data residency within India, Google is the only one who can promise you 2 real regions with 3 zones each, with complete seismic zone separation, and you can have your DC and DR within the country, and this is available as part of SAP RISE as well. We have presence in just about every major customer in every industry across geographies. And this is because we have a very strong portfolio of industry solutions based on our AI and ML. So as you can see, we have solutions which complement SAP best practices and SAP processes in S/4HANA. In just about every industry, be it retail, financial services, manufacturing, media and entertainment, or even the public sector. So we've been very focused on SAP as a partner and SAP, right? Complementing SAP's technologies, co-innovating with SAP right from the word go. And today we're one of the key partners, as you would have seen from several leadership announcements, right from Christian Klein, who's the CEO of SAP, that SAP has expanded their global partnership with Google specifically for RISE, again based around our AI and ML offerings. We uniquely differentiate from the competition. I'm sure you would have heard enough about this from my colleagues Nikhil and Josefa about our global secure network. All data is by default encrypted both at rest as well as in transit. We are subject to 45 plus security certifications. We have resilient infrastructure. We provide you with virtually zero downtime with our feature called live migration. And we also lead the pack as far as innovation is concerned, because we're not just about infrastructure as a service for running ECC or S/4HANA SAP workloads, but we help extend SAP solutions with the help of our integration platform, which is Apigee, and we also help you, embrace new paradigms such as containers and microservices with our hybrid cloud solution called Anthos, right? And analytics being the theme, you would have already heard Josefa's excellent presentation about what we bring to the table as far as analytics is concerned. We have a very powerful analytics / data warehouse tool called BigQuery, which is complemented by our data visualization platform, which is Looker. So BigQuery is capable of running massive queries and providing you with very quick insights and analytics. But all you need to run, the only knowledge that you need to run or to get analytics out of BigQuery is the knowledge of SQL. So we put the power right in the user's hands, and you don't need any very specialized skill sets to do so either. And BigQuery again puts the power of data visualization right in the business users' hands, so they can slice and dice data the way they want, right? And add to this the power that Google brings to the table, because we do so much of analytics. Just about every person on the planet in some way or the other touches some Google application, right? Either on their cell phones or otherwise. So we collect massive amounts of data, and this data, for example, Google Signals, for instance, right, is also available to combine with the data that you have about your customers, from your SAP applications, right? So we can also automate your processes at the end of the day with our AI and ML capabilities. I showed you a slide earlier about the industry solutions which are available. So this is these are a lot of automation capabilities that we bring right out of the box, which can be used in conjunction with your SAP processes, be it in the shop floor, be it in financials, and so on. So why BigQuery and Looker? We lower your TCO. We offer the lowest TCO compared to all the other cloud-based analytics solutions. We save 70% of your analyst's time, and it's just simple ease of use, because we put the power of data visualization and analytics right in the hands of the users. So an example very quickly of where a customer is using the power of SAP or GCP along with Google's analytics capabilities is a very large do-it-yourself hardware retailer in the US, and they've completely managed to eliminate shelf out and stock out, and they're able to manage their inventory forecasts in a much better way after they've started using the power of Google's analytics after already having used Google as an infrastructure as a service provider for their SAP applications for several years. So I'd like to wrap that up with that. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Hello, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Veluswamy. It was truly an informative session. Let's move on now to the most awaited knowledge sharing and interactive session, the panel discussion. This discussion is around the topic cloud-based strategies to unlock insights, efficiency, agility, and innovation. And we have some very interesting names here today. First up, the session will be moderated by Ms. Beros Kamdin, partner Deloitte Haskins & Sells LLP. Thank you, Ms. Kamdin, for joining us. Always a pleasure to be in the same room as you. Let me also introduce to you all esteemed speakers joining us in the panel today. Mr. Prince Joseph is Chief Information Officer, SA4 Technologies Private Limited. Mr. Vinod Sivaramakrishnan is Chief Information Officer, Indus Towers Limited. Mr. Prasad Badiwale is Chief Information Officer, Aditya Birla Management Corporation Private Limited. Mr. Dhananjaya Purushothama is Head IT at NRB Bearings Limited. Mr. Tushar Bagal is Chief Information Officer and Digital Head at Larsen & Toubro Realty. And Mr. Karan Shaktawat is Vice President Technical at Bodal Chemicals Limited. I welcome you all once again, and if you haven't yet, I request you now to please come on video. Without further ado then, let's begin the panel discussion. Over to you, Ms. Kamdin. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thank you, Fraser. And thank you, Dun & Bradstreet, for giving us this opportunity. Thank you for the esteemed panelists for giving your time and being present here to share your experiences. So before we start the panel discussion, just as some icebreaker or something to know each other a little better, what is one thing which comes to mind when we think of cloud services? Prince, if you can start that.
Okay. Right now, I think the word that I would go with cloud is anytime, anywhere. That's the two words that jump out at me.
Thank you. Mr. Prasad?
Yeah, for me, I think cloud is more of a agility in infrastructure and bringing more automation as a part of the entire infrastructure framework.
Okay, agility. Vinod?
So as a representative of a telecommunications infrastructure company, I feel very much like the enabler of a cloud. So, we bring cloud, we bring digital to all of you, and I think that is a matter of considerable pride and happiness to me. Thank you.
Tushar?
So the key word is delight. How do you provide delight to the end user?
Delight, okay. Dhananjay?
Yeah, see, for me, I mean, it's all with the kind of a management we deal with, especially coming from a manufacturing background.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always cloud is somebody's computer and you pay to use.
Correct.
That's one part of it. And second part is you don't have to maintain it. So
Right.
that becomes imperative for me to sell the cloud services internally to my management and my customers.
Sure.
That's
So
how
Karan, I think Karan has having some problems joining this call. So once he comes in, we will then move to Karan. But right now, I think Karan has not been able to join in. So internet connection issues. So basically, when we look at cloud services, we say it's like go to future faster. So something to do with agility, something where we need to be there. So it's like go to future faster. So now let's start on the panel discussions, and we've heard your thoughts on it. And we've been seeing virtual first, like we've got so many platforms and each platform has a different feature. So I was literally struggling to see how do I go about monitoring this platform when we use the others. So virtual first has become like the primary pillar for our work now for clients to reimagine their business operating models, clients to serve them with excellence. And we believe that cloud is the enabler. Like he mentioned, it's the enabler to this key transformation. So what is your view on this? The top 4 key elements for a company's successful migration to cloud. And Prince, if we can start with you.
Thank you. the earlier presenters, Nikhil and Josefa and Sri Murugan, they gave a lot of technical content in there, which I also actually need to take the slide decks, because there's excellent amount of information that you shared. In fact, probably half of what I wanted to say is already mentioned in those slide decks. But then if I come from a business perspective, a successful cloud migration or anything which is related to IT technology, it all originates as a response or a solution to a need that the business has got. You're trying to provide a solution, and it could be maybe just on the infrastructure side, maybe it's application side, maybe it's mobile application side, maybe it's a customer demand which is forcing us to do certain things. So in the earlier days, you actually go through this waterfall model, you look at everything, you sit down and you analyze, you can take months to go through those phases and try to deliver. But right now, I don't think we have that kind of luxury of time. The pandemic has hit us in ways that, especially manufacturing, has been hit pretty bad. We are not able to run at capacity. We have a lot of other challenges, but at the same time, we need to start becoming more flexible, nimble, and we need to keep that operations and the production line running. The biggest need then suddenly becomes time to market. How do you actually get something to be produced faster or delivered faster? So this is where principles like your DevOps and agility suddenly just becomes the most important criteria. At some point, even cost was not the right criteria. We wanted to get the solution to be done. We had a point where we had to quickly migrate to the cloud, certain workloads, because staff were not able to come to the office, but we needed to get our pan-India staff to be able to access the same resources. It's a good thing, probably, from an India perspective, or maybe globally as well. Telecom, bandwidth, internet costs, that has actually been quite helpful. It's not been a deterrent. Whereas I remember maybe a decade back or so, we'd be looking at 100 MB. That's huge, that's expensive. How do we justify that? But right now we have so many 100 MBs and we're looking at gigabyte pipes to the internet that cloud becomes more accessible. It's at the click of a button, you're there at the resource that you want. So when everything is becoming, in one sense, as a service, and it's a service that you just want to tap into immediately, there is no other way, because try to build it yourself, you're reinventing the wheel. So many people have realized that. I think over the past maybe 2-3 years, the whole momentum has shifted in a huge manner. So for me, first when we started with the cloud, the one criteria would have been pricing. Cloud, how do we look at the pricing part? So cloud has got justification because there's no longer CapEx. You can manage it as OpEx. And then there's the risk with that pricing model as well, meaning you might end up having, you're sleeping and nobody's using the resource, but they're billing you. And that needs to be managed. So the pricing is one element which just needs to be considered. It has got an advantage, but it needs to be managed. Second element was on the scalability. So if I need to suddenly expand the size of what I have, I need to add more cores, I need to add more memory, I need to add more resources. Previously, you go through the whole process of getting a CapEx purchase order approved, whereas here you tell the admin, you give an approval, and it's done, and probably within minutes you've got what you need, and you can manage that. The third part is is more around agility. The fourth one is one of the hindrances that we always spoke up against the cloud, saying that security is a big concern. And true, the security is an aspect which you can't just speak about in one line and leave it there. But what happened to security now is also quite interesting in the cloud realm, because how we manage security, what is the nuances of cloud security that we understood earlier and where they are now, you are actually probably finding out that cloud security is probably going to give you more of a comfortable sleep at night than in those days, and you managing the whole thing yourself. There used to be a time when Wi-Fi, when it was introduced, I just go back maybe 15-20 years, 802.11 technology, when it came in, people said, oh, Wi-Fi is insecure, it can be hacked, all you have is a web key, etc. But then suddenly AES, PEEP, all the other authentication methods came. Wi-Fi became more secure than even your LAN connection. For a period of time. Now, even that is matured. So with the whole maturity cycle that enterprises are going on, I see the shift becoming more and more gradual, more and more natural. So The other thing that I want to add is when you talk about cloud, everybody says there's cloud, but there's not just one cloud. There's types of clouds, and this is where the biggest distinction happens. You need to figure out: are we talking about a public cloud? Yes, there's considerations there, and that comes with a lot of different parameters. But if you're talking private cloud, you're actually talking private cloud where you are managing everything. You have control over a whole lot of stuff. You have regulations, compliance, customizable, dedicated infrastructure. So private cloud is a whole different kettle of fish. So suddenly it's no longer cloud. It's actually almost an extension of what you have. Then there's a hybrid part. So depending on what cloud we talk about, every conversation should be different.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Dhananjay, what do you think are the 4 key elements for migration? Mainly on migration, when you're migrating to clouds. We've heard all the advantages of having a cloud, and it's inevitable.
So, see, for me, it has always been because, being in manufacturing, the industry is very different. The ask is very different. So it's always a dynamic scenario, and it's not easy to migrate lock, stock, barrel, move into cloud. So it's very essential to identify what goes on cloud first. I mean, what exactly has to go on cloud? That has to be a very critical decision. And then revisiting my IT security and disaster and backup policies also matters a lot for me. Apart from this, because we operate with smaller teams, we don't have a 20-30 member IT team. So identifying the roles, responsibilities of both my team as well as the CSP team plays a very key role to have a very clear demarcation who stands where and who does what at what time. And in any occurrence of issues, who owns what? That's the key part of it. On top of it, for us, it's always the sensitivity of the data, typical larger organizations, which has, we all inherit those legacy of having data center next to my cabin, or my server should sit to my next cabin. So with this kind of a mindset, when I'm moving out my data somewhere, having sensitivity, where exactly my data gets stored, that's one part of it. On the other hand, yes, of course, industries today are no more only limited to India. They do carry out business across the globe. So respecting those data guidelines is also the key part of it. So for me, it has always been the 4 elements, like identify what goes on the cloud, who does what, and a clear mention of SLAs, roles and responsibilities. Security is anyway, it's already, cloud, that's a maturity we have reached. And in the backup is something which has been close to my heart, and disaster recovery, DR strategies around it. And then sensitivity and respecting the data guidelines of each of the geographies. These are the 4 basic things which always I try to work around that.
Yeah, very important. And you also mentioned SLAs which are there.
Yes.
That's also a very key SLAs. Prasad, what is your view on key data and analytics? So, sorry, just before we come to Prasad, Mr. Karan has joined the session. Welcome, Mr. Karan. You're on mute, so if you wish to speak and greet, you'll have to unmute yourself. I think he's still having some internet connectivity. So, Prasad, what is your view on key data and analytics challenges for transitioning to cloud?
So, one of the important challenges that law of gravity. So you will say, what is law of gravity? So law of gravity is nothing but we are living in the Earth planet. So there is always a gravity. We cannot miss that. And because of that, we are one of the important challenge for us is the law of latency in the network. So that is going to have one of the major challenges. If we thought of looking into data and analytics in part of moving to the cloud to get a real-time monitoring, but we to some extent failed because of the law of latency, and I think that is not giving us a good results. But I think still we have to find out the solution, and we have found out the solution is that as the Moore's law says that every 18 months your computing power is increasing, rather it is increasing by doubling, it is quadruple, or it is increasing much better fashion. That's the reason we are moving towards cloud more convincingly in this scenario. So we have to think of cloud edge computing also.
Yes.
Because nowadays, because of the computing power is increasing, your edge devices are also becoming a much more powerful. So, for example, I just would like to give you, we were implementing in our all factories where we have a lot of contract workers, for example, for attendance of them or for in the entire safety and security of this. We have placed the video analytics entire real-time monitoring tool in terms of, but what we found is that real-time monitoring tools from the factories like locations like Class C and Class D network locations, where a majority of factories are manufacturing factories are located in the country or pan-India. The challenge is that latency part. So how to solve this problem? Because wherever we found that particular workers are moving into the restricted area, and then we are finding that there's accident happening, and then alarm is coming after 2 minutes, and the accident has already happened. So how to solve this problem? So I would say this is one of the important challenge for us. Apart from that, the challenges what we have noticed in terms of data analytics, the center of excellence, the expertise at our end. That is very important aspect. If you don't have proper expertise, whatever the colleagues have already mentioned in the previous presentation, how we can have a collaboration of the multiple data bases which is available, how we can move data with the help of Cloud Fusion with multiple unstructured, structured data. So that for such type of things, we need to have a better center of excellence or better expertise at our end, because ultimately we have to develop a lot of solutions with the help of data and analytics, and which has to be almost all solutions will be based for business requirement. So how to have that understanding to deliver a right solution? What previous speaker has spoke about is onlooker solution. Yes, it is good solution in terms of giving a business perspective, but unless we will not have that knowledge to develop it in customized queries and customized SQLs, we will not able to deliver that. And definitely what we feel is that the solution will be, we have to take incremental data to the cloud, and then we have to do a batch processing in terms of the business decision queries to the cloud. So that is the way it has to work right now, because still we are lacking in the infrastructure part, and still there will be a law of latency going to continue. So I feel we have to work out the data and analytics solution in this aspect. And one of the important bottlenecks is connectivity part.
Okay. So when you mentioned important bottlenecks is connectivity, if we can have Vinod over here, you find that as a challenge to cloud?
I mean, look, it is really a question of reach. It's my experience that connectivity, particularly on mobile, still is a far easier ask than connectivity on a fixed line basis or on a broadband basis. I mean, you look at fiber to the home, for instance, and you look at penetration of fiber to the home a year and a half into the pandemic, and it's still nowhere near as ubiquitous as mobile. And, this is before we bring in 5G into the conversation for relatively high bandwidth mobile connectivity. I mean, look, the way again I look at it is whether you're on premise or whether you're in the cloud, the last mile continues to be a challenge and will continue to be a challenge for, the appreciable future. Technology only brings it closer, but, then you need the ubiquitous spread of that technology. So for instance, if you're talking about metros or you're talking about district headquarters, or you're talking about places that are currently connected, that's great. But if you look at Dhananjay's, extension into remoter areas for manufacturing, even a campus network, let's say in a greenfield site, it's not a joke. I mean, we talk about it as fairly lightly, but I think the effort that goes into last mile, I think the effort that goes into reach is considerable. Yes. To me, I believe, access is not ubiquitous, but it's getting better. And certainly with 5G, I think mobile last mile is really here to stay.
Absolutely. I think cloud is inevitable, and cloud has happened because of the last mile connectivity which has been given by telecoms. So there's this one very basic understanding that you want to have is whether now is the time for cloud. So Deloitte had done a survey in 2020, And based on the survey, and there were some CIOs who were interviewed, and based on survey, what we understand is on-premise versus cloud. In 2020 it increased it reduced from 59% to 38% on-premise workloads. And on cloud, from 41%, it went to 62%. So very clearly, we are seeing that, workload has moved from on-premise to cloud. So Dhananjaya, do you think now is the time for cloud, or is already done and we've come far ahead?
I wouldn't say we have done and come far ahead. It's now the time. I'm not sure about the other industries, but in our case of manufacturing industries, we do all come with a lot of influence of shadow IT. Yeah? So which I never challenge that status quo of shadow IT. I always been recommending and sometimes rewarding that as well. And the shadow IT has also, in fact, helped to a large extent in an organization like mine to embrace cloud, to start liking towards it. And there are a lot of the new SaaS solutions, which has literally alienated the paranoia around the data security. That was always the thing which the SaaS solutions have helped to a large extent. And these are the two factors. Like shadow IT is one which a very influential factor which has come out and bringing this cloud as an adoption, or cloud adoption being openly embraced, spoken about, and today thought about, saying that why can't everything go on cloud? So I'm seeing that paradigm shift happening around, and it will certainly continue to happen from now on.
Thank you. So Prince, on this ongoing pandemic, has it accelerated the adoption of cloud and other advanced technologies? Are these technologies being deployed with a well-planned long-term outlook? Because it should not happen that because it's a pandemic, people are moving to cloud, and once pandemic settles down, again they'll come on-premise. So do you think that actually they should do it short-term, or are people having a long-term view on it? You're on mute.
Sorry, let me just rephrase. So right now all the steps that's being taken by enterprises are responses, and I would have to say many decisions that's actually made now is just been made faster. It's just that they were all sitting waiting for this big push, which was received because of the scenario that we found ourselves in. Many initiatives that were bubbling just were given the go ahead to go out there and maybe become production, like the virtual infrastructure parts or several security initiatives. And in the virtual sense, I can talk about a couple of areas where we were toying with the idea, but after the pandemic hit, this was the only way to go. For example, when we do manufacturing to a certain client who inspects every piece of the product that we send out to them. Previously, they would have their testing team or quality team come across. They'd be spending weeks over here, and they'd be going through each component, each assembly, and certifying it, and we'd be able to ship it. Now here, we still need to ship. They still need the equipment, and how do we get this done? So we suddenly had to go in to do very carefully planned virtual audits, virtual certifications. So for that, suddenly you can't just you started off with your phones. You got cameras in, and then we moved on to getting kits like HoloLens and Google Glass, so that we were able to do a lot more. And then the confidence that these tests and the quality is clear, because once we ship all the products, that they're receiving it there, and they're able to certify that certification was valid. And adopting those kind of innovative steps actually helped us to move forward, because we always knew about all this, but we didn't want to go and do it and make it mainstream. But now mainstream is showing that it works. So that is one area. And another one is, I think RPA has probably been in and around. Only thing is now we find that if you're in a scenario where we need to make some saving, because there are some products that we do which is high volume, and this high volume products maybe are per product cost is maybe $1.50. But when we are asked, can you reduce it by 1 cent, the cost? Not that 1 cent matters anyway, but 1 cent now matters because you're doing high volume, you're doing millions. So it actually translates to them to our customer in bottom line in tens of millions. So how do you find this? And this is not possible by our traditional means. We can't throw people at it. We don't have the time. We just need to get automation done in parts where we know these things can be automated, and that may give us the saving that we're looking at. So there are drivers of this nature. But to me, this was a good opportunity for us to do things better. Even production processes itself, people have to find out how do I meet my production target when only 60% of the people are turning up. What about on days when only 40% of the people are there as operators? How do we still try to meet some sort of a target as far as production is concerned? So I would have to state that the pandemic has given an impetus to fast tracking some of these things, which the only doubt of around these would have been how mature are these. But from the results, you are actually becoming more confident that we can make this mainstream, and that is being done now.
Okay, thank you. So when we speak about cloud, many organizations get concerned that idea of being locked in one cloud vendor. And when Deloitte did this survey in 2020, they actually asked the people. So 90% of the global enterprises said that they would rely on a hybrid cloud model. And 97% of the IT managers said that they would distribute the workload between two clouds. So it's not only just one cloud. Of course, cloud is inevitable, but two clouds, and that too a hybrid model. So how crucial is it for entities to set up an architecture to maximize portability? And Prasad, if we can start with you on your views on this.
Okay, I think that question is there for every enterprise. And I think first and foremost is that enterprises should think of, first of all, they should have a strategy first about cloud strategy. And unless they will not have a cloud strategy, they will not able to define the blueprint, and then they can drive that thing. And that is applicable for every enterprise, be it a new economy or old economy, be it a manufacturing or service industry. So that is one of the important aspects for all the enterprises. And now, if you see the question mark being developed in saying that should I work with one cloud provider or other cloud provider? So with the help of strategy, first of all, you have to define strategy. For example, we have defined a strategy that what should be the way we have to take a cloud approach for our group businesses. So first and foremost thing is saying that we have decided first, one of the important pillar is that multi-cloud strategy. We have to leverage best of the both worlds in terms of captive setup, in terms of cloud setup, public cloud setup. So Google is having some strength, Amazon is having some strength, and because of this, all of them are in the same space, but all of them are having a unique selling proposition. And that's the reason all of them are growing and all of them are selling their solutions, and they have been surviving in a great manner. So we have to see what should be the important aspect for my business in terms of taking a particular solution from particular cloud provider. So we should think of that is also as a part of our strategy. Now we have also thought over it, saying that first of all, we'll take a cloud approach. We'll go with our, as far as our main ERPs are concerned, they are a core application which is residing in a captive setup. But still we would like to adapt a cloud strategy, or we have to take a cloud as a thing. So we have decided we will, as a part of strategy, we decided that how we will take our satellite application, which is business facing, logistics, Salesforce automation, all these things, how we can take it to these are the satellite application to the cloud, because we can see the advantages for having that type of business processes or the satellite application to the cloud, because that will give a more agility. Because sometimes we found that Salesforce automation, sometimes we found our logistics application that should be running 24/7, 365 days. And that is the advantage of having the cloud. So how we can integrate, and with the help of that strategy, we can solve the problem of hyper-converged infrastructure part. That is the one part. Second part of the strategy, organizations are not realizing that our IT teams are blessed with working last 15, 20 years in a perimeter-wise security framework or infrastructure framework. Now, world has become boundaryless. And because the world has become boundaryless, how we can have that acumen or that skill set at our end. And that is very important for the enterprises. So how to have working towards end-to-end solution. People used to work in a very perimeter-wise, fence-driven infrastructure. Now they have to work boundaryless infrastructure. So, and they have to, at the same time, I have noticed that in my organization, my team were good in the managing the Wipros of the world or IBMs of the world. But now they have to manage Google, Amazon, Azure. These are the technology players. How to manage them, how to derive them, how to define the scope of work, how to define the architecture. All this skill set has to be built. So that is second part of this. And unless that is not there, I think we will continue to have these questions in mind. So strategy is one of the important part, and we have to do that in terms of this to solve all our questions. Behroz, you are on mute.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Tushar, I think till Tushar joins in, Mr. Dhananjay, I said Tushar has come.
Yes, I'm here.
Tushar, what is your view on this architecture to maximize portability?
So,
Should there be two clouds or should it be only one cloud vendor? And should there be a portability? Because I think there's a cost attached when you port from one cloud to the other.
so what happens is like 25 years back when the mobile phones came, okay, everybody started buying phones, all right? So I'll go with that example. And then we had multiple options out there. Then maybe in Bombay, Vodafone or BPL was very popular. Everybody went for BPL. But over the period of time, people realized it's not possible to just work with one service provider. So it's a learning which you've got, and we should not forget that. So we have to go with multi-cloud. On the other front, once you decide on multi-cloud, what are you going to select? Is it a VM? It's a PaaS service? It's a SaaS service? So, for example, let me give you an example. I started with my website on the Azure cloud as an IaaS service. Okay, then I thought I should have a PaaS platform because maintaining so many VMs and then the DR of that become very very big issue. So I moved to PaaS service 2 years back. Today I'm thinking of moving to a SaaS service where I say on my Salesforce itself, I host my content management solution, and Salesforce itself will have my website along with my customer facing app. So you have to think about these things also. All right. And then, but then the SAP is not that powerful onto Salesforce, right? So I again end up having my SAP on some other cloud. So it is that negotiation which you have to do. It all depends upon your environment, where you have to go. But the most important thing is you need a SI partner who is skilled and is ready to experiment along with you. Because it's a discovery. Just like on the mobile front journey, we have discovered over the last 25 years, okay, from basic telephony to SMS to mobile apps to WhatsApp, same way it's a discovery here. And you require a very, very strong partner. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Vinod, what is your view on this?
So I think if you look at the view on lock-in, lock-in is only a lock-in when, the partner or whoever you're working with ceases to provide continuous value. So, a contract with any provider is only worth the paper it's not printed on these days. Because the presumption of any long-term engagement with the partner is really continuous value. And one of the challenges really is that, the evolution of these different cloud partners is unequal. So it's not, while there is a game of catch up and, pretty much the same feature finds its way very quickly across this ecosystem, the challenge is really one of, are you getting continuous value? Are you getting trapped into a contractual arrangement that prevents you from getting out of it? And therefore you are in partnership with a partner for all the wrong reasons. And obviously that is what drives, whether it is hybrid or multi-cloud or hybrid multi-cloud, what drives you to that diversity in the first place is exactly this idea that you don't want to be caught making the wrong technical guess at this point in time. And it is a guess, despite, your visibility into the strategic plans of each of the partners. There's no telling who's able to execute what in what frame of time. When you talk about portability, I think, one of the challenges is that as CIOs, we tend to place the responsibility for portability on a partner. And at some level, I think that's, really not the smartest thing to do, because there is nothing to interest the partner in that. For instance, if you were to argue that I want to migrate from cloud partner A to cloud partner B, cloud partner B will give you 100 widgets and wizards that help you migrate from, but not migrate to. And I think that's fairly natural in the course of business, that nobody's going to really do that. So I think, it calls on us to actually design our implementations. For instance, when you go and cash in all your chips and go all into a cloud partner, you end up using functionality that is exclusive to that partner. That kind of, creates that restriction from moving. Now, sometimes it's actually prudent to hold back and keep your design, keep your architecture more vanilla, keep your interfaces cleaner. Don't use every single bell and whistle that is available, but keep it plain, keep it simple. My database on platform X, my application on platform Y, and my interface on my own premise. And when you understand these, and when you understand what has made it work in the first place, it is so much easier to start moving these pieces around as a matter of course. We have, for instance, fairly restrictive share of business policies. I mean, we work extensively with a number of partners. I think it's great to have that, whether it's a compulsion of your business or not. Where you say, I've got these pieces, I understand these pieces, I've kept them relatively clean and vanilla so I can, shop them around when I'm called upon to do that. And, we all make wrong choices. We all make contracts based on our expectation of the future. But I think we have to hedge aggressively. I think the problem of contractual lock-ins and the ability to not maneuver out is relatively easily mitigated once you have a fairly large multi-cloud footprint. And when you have your own setup that can absorb some of these flex, but you have to keep it clean. And I think my view is really that if you keep it clean, then you keep the onus on the cloud providers to continually deliver that value. So, you don't go in there intending to whip it out, but you go in there with a view that should push come to shove, you're in a position to do that. And certainly you're not reliant on the partner themselves to help you get off their cloud. God bless if that situation should happen to you.
Thank you, Vinod. Dhananjay, what is your view on this?
See, for me, it's always the multi-cloud or multiple people, multiple organizations, and multi-strategies. The thing is, one wrong step by us would land up the entire organization into a big trouble, and that's kind of a, it's a wedlock. You can't. How long can you tolerate a nagging wife? That's how the situation becomes, and then the alimony becomes too costly. And again, and how do you go and answer your business who has approved the strategies? Because for us, majority of our management is averse to cloud, and then we end up creating such mistakes. But for me or for us, my opinion or my way of handling this is always a multi-cloud strategy. Before that, as I told earlier, like what goes on cloud is important, and then where it goes. And to do that, it's a simple common example. So what we look at is what is commonality between the multiple CSPs and how heterogeneous they are, and how my data structures and applications are designed, and how do they handle how the APIs works out. What are the standards which any of the CSP provides, so that my portability becomes easier between one to the other. So it's a well thought out, and it's not a very impulsive decision where we say that let me stick to one CSP or something. We generally stick to. That's how the trend within our fraternity is, to look at the applications, fit it where it's the most economical way in today, and tomorrow it also has the feasibility and flexibility to be migrated to some other platform without any changes with my team. And because once your team get used to AWS, then learning new things on a GCP becomes a new, again, it's a 2-year degree program for them. So you don't have to go with that, stick to the standards. So that's how, it's always like playing hocus pocus. So that's how it has been, and probably maybe another years to come, we will have something more standard and more flexible.
Yeah, actually, one of the CIO had mentioned in one of the cases saying that tech is easy, people are hard.
Yeah.
So we need to see. So, Tushar, do we have you? We've been hearing about security, and a lot of questions have been raised on, there's a reduced security when you move to cloud, and it's better on premise. So, what are the best followed practices for efficiently operating on cloud from a security standpoint?
So a few years back, around 10 years back, actually, we did a whole audit of ISO 27001. Okay. And we realized that a lot of our practices are wrong, and we need to improve a lot on that front. Okay. And then we did that because we were then I was the head of a CIO. I was providing service to all the ICs of L&T group. Today, I am in real estate. I'm doing other parties there. So we have realized that you need to have two types of security. One is at the end user side, and second is at the cloud side. So, for example, all end users should have a software like Umbrella, from Cisco. What it does, it tells you if anybody is logged in onto a VPN ID, and then he goes to a bad site, it can be hacked. Your whole environment can be hacked. So you need to have endpoint protection softwares, which are a given. Secondly, you need to also have something at the cloud side, like the Stealth Watch, which will tell you if somebody from Russia or somebody from USA is suddenly logging from the report location. Those things are there. About ISO 27001, the cloud providers have already done that. They are up to mark. Whatever has to be done on the coding side, it's your game. You have to do it. It is like inevitable, right? So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Prasad, what do you feel because of this remote working? Has the security risk increased?
Yeah, it is definitely increased, no doubt about it. And as I mentioned that our acumen and skills of our organizational team members are confined and limited to the perimeter-wise security framework. Now, how security as one of the important space or criteria which we have to look into when we are moving to the cloud, because as you must have seen our experience or heard last 1 year back, there are a lot of incidents happen on the cloud also where security breaches have happened. One of the important aspect is that people are assuming that once I am moving to the cloud, I am being safe. But that is not the part. If you see all Google, Amazon, Azure, if we can see their scope of work, their clear demarcation is there that they are not going to handle the security part. They are only going to give agility to their infrastructure in terms of providing you agile infrastructure. That is very clearly demarcated. Simple thing is that people has to configure the S3 type storage on the cloud. And if you are not configured that from your point of view, Amazon, Azure, any cloud provider is not responsible. And such type of attacks has happened from the hackers. They have taken an entire database of the people, and then organization like us fighting with Amazon, Azure, Google with their legal teams will be highly impossible. And that is the reason, and nobody can fight with that. So basically, if you want to seriously think of, we have to think of seriously a security aspect. And that is only we have to think in our context. Sorry. We have to build our security operating center at our end, and we have to have better tools which can monitor the workloads which is residing in the in-premise as well as out-premise in the terms of cloud framework. And at the same time, we have to create a proper framework for the connecting to the cloud also. We should have a security framework between the multiple clouds also. That only just taking a workloads and just putting one link will not help us. We should have a different level of framework in terms of security in areas of connecting with Google Cloud, in terms of Amazon and all aspect of it. And apart from that, we have a lot of satellite application. So how we can take care of data in transit. That is very important aspect of it. So we have to use better quality of APIs, which are already in the previous section, it has been mentioned that their APIs are already encrypted. So such type of things we have to see seriously, and we have to gear up for the security part, because our teams are not ready for this, and that is very important aspect of it. And definitely I would like to say we have to look into end-to-end aspect. What Tushar has said is that Tushar has said is that endpoint security is one part and enterprise security is the other part. So we have to see that both the things in a end-to-end fashion. Unless that is not there, I think we will have major challenges. And one of the important thing in enterprise space, what we have noticed is that endpoint is a weakest link in the entire enterprise security. How to protect that when we are moving to the cloud? And that is, we have to more focus towards that also. And that was a focus was not there in past in an enterprise level. That is also one of the aspects.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got actually some questions come in, and seeing the time paucity which is there, I thought I'll just take a few questions if it's fine with the panel.
Yeah. Okay.
To Mr. Vinod, how does the unorganized manufacturing sector start behaving as a single unit, viewed by a hybrid cloud ecosystem, and in turn start threatening the traditional big guys?
It's never been easier to upend the ecosystem than it is today. I think if you look at classical, on-premise infrastructure, that was a much harder game. If you're talking about enterprise class servers, it's 3 people and only 3 people. And the logistics and scale required to get into 3 people and only 3 people is prohibitive. But if you look really at the place where we are in terms of, for instance, let me give you an example. In most other countries, you have a concept of a virtual mobile network operator. So you have guys who buy minutes from other guys and package them and sell them. And, if you really looked at that business, you would say they have no reason or no basis to exist. The truth is that there is always innovation at the edge. There is always ways of packaging known services to solve specific problems, niche problems. And I think as a practitioner of, the problem solving process, I believe there are niches all over the place. We talked, for instance, about portability. That is such a rich market. Building of generic, adapters, services to take people to and off clouds. I'm not a big fan of arbitrage in terms of cost or, creating some kind of a niche thing. And neither am I a huge fan of, a lot of enterprises look to market their own IT services. So, I have significant private cloud infrastructure. And by the way, I obviously play the demand supply curve a little bit on the, I err on the side of caution and I have more than I need. So what, a great idea to monetize this would be to sell it to 6 other people. Not so much. I mean, I think the view is really who's got something innovative to offer, who brings something to the table that solves a problem. And I think IT particularly is replete with examples of small upstarts who come out of nowhere, who've succeeded hugely on the strength of being able to solve problems. You look at the entire app economy, many of these apps, you look at them and you really wonder, who came up with this in the first place now. And you look, and these are monoliths now. I mean, these are huge companies now. And by the way, they're not by any stretch of imagination the first in that area. So whether it is, home rentals or whether it is food delivery or whatever it is, I mean, it absolutely is about finding that sweet spot and, building a product for that. And obviously, yes, there are a lot of people waiting to acquire these guys, and that's not necessarily a bad thing either. But I think finding something that is actively a problem that is not being addressed or not very high on the priorities of the large guys that address pain areas like portability, like, niche applications by domains that people are not interested in. Because you look at the large providers and they're all trying to be domain agnostic. They're all trying to say, well, it doesn't matter if you're a real estate company or a fast food delivery company, but all of you can come and sit here. And I don't believe that anybody is really looking at some unique features of that and say, okay, you know what, my cloud only caters to QSRs. I am the cloud for the QSR providers of the world. I don't think anybody has done that. Or if they have, I don't think they've managed to achieve that kind of critical mass. But I think there is significant scope. My own view would be to find a problem that needs solving. And I believe that it is absolutely a level playing field today. I should be able to buy cloud space from one of the established partners to disrupt them today. And I'm willing to bet that it's actually possible to do that, Beryl. But I think it comes down to the ability to identify that and take that risk. But this is a market replete with opportunity.
Thank you. So basically, it's not actually competition, but more collaboration is something that you should look at. So we have a question for Mr. Dhananjaya. In a manufacturing industry scenario, where the weight is always on being traditional and centralized, and with a natural resistance to move to uncharted territories first, how does the panel here visualize emergence of newer manufacturing models, more decentralized virtualization, and the scope of unprecedented scalability, leading to a heavy disruption unless the calm of fresh models settles down? It's a long question.
Yeah, very long.
Yeah. So mainly what he's trying to say is that manufacturing is basically a centralized sort of a thing, and how will it take care of all these new models which come in?
See, again, I would put another question like.
And one more thing, if you can add this along with this, how does mid-sized companies will work on it?
I'll tell you that.
Mid-sized companies will be affected more.
So it was always a two-sided question. So manufacturing says like we are very diversified, we don't want centralization, etc. But on the other hand, as a CIO of and head of multiple manufacturing organizations, I've been always a victim of shadow IT. So it has always been there. So that's where we always try. I mean, at least I've been trying to find a common ground over there, and then. And again, you don't have to sell the technology to these people. You don't have to shell out or explain in detail what is exactly an S3 bucket would mean in Amazon, or how does a storage happens in GCP or something. We don't get into that kind of a business at all. So generally, with my approach has always been on terms of the business benefits what the user community is going to drive, and it is your business to get the benefit out of whatever the initiative the business takes, and it is my duty to manage that infra. So that's a common ground, and equal weightage I give it to saying that I stick to my role, you stick to your role, and this is how we are going to manage things. And that has, of course, to a large extent, it has helped me. It doesn't also mean that I don't do any value additions. Yes, of course, there are value additions coming from both of the sides. And with traditional setups, what we have here, like having centralized controls, moving everything to one place, is still a challenge. But again, for that, there are escalations, there are mechanisms owing to different organizational dynamics. So it is very imperative for me as an IT guy to blend into that dynamics and take it up within the appropriate forum sometimes, like getting into a decision of how does my IoT data gets recorded and travels from factory to some other place. So it's better I show my factory guy, this is how your data, this is what it looks like, and this is how it travels, and this is what it looks like to some other people also. So I always try to address that concern, and very openly. We don't have, and sometimes I do play the devil's advocate also over here. And I need to do that. And that's how it has been. It has always been a give and take for us. And so far, so good. It's been done that way.
Okay, thank you. So, Tushar, are you there?
I'm there.
Yeah, hi, Tushar. So there's a question for you. This is very small but very complex question. Who will miss the bus of this new revolution which cloud is orchestrating?
Who will miss the bus
of this new revolution which cloud is orchestrating?
See, everybody is only doing efficiency management and so and so. The people who will learn to innovate, will miss the bus. The cloud is an option to innovate. Example is the cloud providers themselves can innovate by providing a industry-specific solution only for real estate, only for pharma. They have to make the solution in that manner, and we will miss the bus if we do not innovate. You have to innovate. Cloud is just not a concept as such. It's a universe. You have to innovate, otherwise you're going to miss the bus. It is like my boss says, your IIT studied, but do not apply your brain. So studied in IIT is very simple. Or your IIM studied. We only studied. Okay, you're not applying your brain to really get the output.
Thank you. Prince, would you want to also add something here on who will miss the bus of this new revolution?
So the thing is, and I don't think anyone's going to miss the bus. The thing is, if you're going to be around, you will be on this bus because you'll be dragged onto it. Right now, I'm not an independent entity that is running a business just for myself. I'm doing it for my customers. I'm doing it with the help of my suppliers. There's a whole ecosystem at play here. So you can't be the one who is left out. You need to be connected with them, and those platforms can only be leveraged if you're on comparable platforms. So that will force you. Otherwise, they will no longer do business with you. So I'm not saying cloud. I'm not saying it's only cloud. There are quite a few other things. So you will be pulled in along with that. The difference would be in how competently, how efficiently, how thought through is the manner in which you are migrating, because it's change, and this change is constant. So that's the way I see it, and that's what makes the whole IT job quite interesting, because you're in motion constantly.
Yeah. Prasad, just one question on cost. Cost of cloud witnesses a return of increased efficiency, they say. Is cloud actually very costly as a implementation, or it's something which gives good return? How would you measure the return on cloud?
Actually, see, we are in this journey of cloud migration or cloud evolving things, and how we can adapt the cloud more effectively. Initially, if you see, for the quick gains, people have presented to the management saying that we will reduce our cost, our recurring cost will reduce, capex will not be there, all this aspect of it. But at the end of the day, we have found that your recurring cost is increasing, and your CFO is coming back to you saying that my recurring cost is increasing, though your capex is not increasing. And sometimes in a manufacturing company, CFO says, I would prefer to have capex than the opex.
Yeah.
So that is a challenge for the CIOs, how to handle this. But I think one thing we have noticed is that definitely initial level, the cost is high to moving to the cloud. But if you have that expertise to deal with cloud economics or to understand the cloud economics, unfortunately, technical guides are very poor in terms of economics. And how they can learn this cloud economics, definitely there is an advantage of your getting a better cost-effective optimization part in the cloud. Because basically cloud basic fundamentals of the cloud is how you can pay per use basis. And if you are monitoring your infrastructure in a right fashion, and if you feel that month end only I have to increase the workload, rest of the 26 days, I don't want to increase the workload, I can run with half of the workload, then I can reduce drastically the cost. So that cloud economics has to be learned by the technical guys. That is very important. Then only we can go to the management and prove, saying that whatever our decision is there in terms of cloud migration or cloud adoption is more effective. And we have to prove that. And that is the proving part is still left with the IT community or IT fraternity. And unless that will not happen, that blame game will continue to happen in the organization. And somewhere I think if we have taken that lead in terms of moving and we know the advantages, then we have to take that part. Because at the end of the day, if I go to my CFO and say, oh, efficiency has increased, oh, security has increased, he say, show me in the form of figures, boss. Don't tell me all this. These are adjectives for me. Don't give me seamless, agility, all this aspect of this thing. He say, give me numbers. And we have to give numbers. At the end of that, we have to prove in our organization, my decision was right. And that is a basic thing. So, and that is the thing. So I feel initial phase, definitely cost is high. But going forward, if you are showing 10 years roadmap, 5 years roadmap, saying that how I can reduce the cost, definitely it is there.
Sure. So we've heard all of you all share your experiences. Thank you so much. Before we end, I want one last thought from each of the panelists. And so maybe we can start with Prince. Cloud has become a top C-suite agenda. Do you really see that as a C-suite agenda for business? What is your concept of being cloud smart?
Cloud is per se not a topic for the C-suite. I mean, it's an enabler. I think somebody had said it's a vehicle. So I don't think you would take it to the board to say you want cloud. I think it's a decision that is taken rather organically. So if you start looking at it, I would just say we've got at this particular moment in technology history, we've got a great vehicle that we should be leveraging more to get more benefits to the business. And then that's how I would just simply put it.
Okay, thanks. Tushar?
So at L&T, cloud has definitely reached the top management. Okay, they are saying just like the Amazon, Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Paytm, GPay, ICICI, HDFC, I want you to make apps, platforms which can touch my customers, all my stakeholders. Okay, my employee, my vendors, my customers, my partners. I want those kind of applications. It's very, very clear.
That's good. That's very nice. Prasad?
So it is a C-suite agenda in terms of, because of it is a peer pressure to the CEOs of the organization because, and that peer pressure is coming to us only, I think definitely. So definitely it is a C-suite agenda, and we have to just see that how we can drive that, because everybody is feeling that how my organization can become a digitally enabled.
Yes.
And they feel that digitally enabled, making it and accelerating the digital initiatives, we need to have a cloud as one of the important ingredient or component for our infrastructure or the IT space. And definitely it is there, but we have to see that how it is holistically being driven, because just putting my application on the cloud will not help me to change my business model or change my application legacy. So we have to think in a holistic fashion. Unless my application is not going to become serverless infrastructure, it is not going to become microservices based application, containers based, I'm not able to achieve that agility. I cannot compare with Ola, Uber and all this thing.
Yeah.
The important aspect is that how we can orchestrate also, and orchestrating entire component in the cloud will become a smart cloud.
Smart. Thank you. Mr. Dhananjay?
I completely agree with what Mr. Prasad said. We all face the dilemma, and essentially it all boils down to I sometimes get into a meeting, suddenly I'm called in and saying, why can't you get this on cloud? I would not even know what is that. So that's a kind of a cloud penetration I'm seeing at the top levels, and it's always a challenge for us. And sometimes saying that the core applications or the core which is close to my heart or my engineering application, suddenly somebody will come up and say, can't we put it on cloud? Yes, of course, your PLM plan go cloud. I don't have a problem, provided you guys don't have a problem. So I always try to throw it back and say, understand what is it. Because see, the biggest problem what we face is in such decision making is, I had told in 15 days back there was a meeting that let's move to cloud. Again, so I walk in and say, no, there are certain restrictions which I can't move. So, recently there was some upgradation in the company rules where we maintain all the list of the shareholders and all those data. And the guidelines is very clear. It has to be managed by an in-house person, that particular thing. And there was a delay. And in fact, the IT, my infra guy and me, we told the company secretary it would take around 4 days to set up the whole part. So we need to do it. And she suddenly says, no, by this weekend I need it. Aajkal to cloud ka zamana hai. Why don't you put it on cloud and do it? Then I had to throw back the rule along with the sections and saying that this is what the insider trading norms say, that I can't put it on cloud. I have to put it in my house. So you need 4 days. So we face both the sides of it, and we are fried equally on both the sides. That's how it is.
Thank you. That is very interesting. Vinod, your last thoughts on it?
So, cloud smart is just smart. There's no, as Prince said, there's no sanctity to cloud as being anything anymore that is so revolutionary or strategic that, it makes a difference to life as we know it. It's just one of the latest of a series of, fads from business process re-engineering down to where what do you have, and there'll be something else along in a few years. I think it's just about being smart and using this tactically and strategically as one alternative among others. I think the challenge that Dhananjay and Prasad articulated is absolutely valid, that you have people from the other C-suite offices coming in and saying, Acha, I hear this is the greatest thing in the world. I think it's also our ability to articulate very simply the propositions. For instance, when I was explaining to somebody about cloud costing, and we got this discussion very quickly into the telecom world by saying, you remember when these guys decided that they'll charge you not by the minute but by the second, and what it did to the industry? And we said, okay, that's exactly what these guys are doing. And then there was no question after that, because everybody in the room got that, because it's very topical to them. They know what happened to that world because of that. I think a lot comes to our ability to explain these things in very, very simple, if a little, overwhelming or sweeping ways. It's how you articulate this concept to people and say, this is what this thing is. And then very quickly you find that people come up with their own mental models of how these things work. And then you have a lot less trouble with people telling you, cloud seems to be a good thing, cloud karte. Which otherwise is the tendency that happens whenever you have the latest fad. I think 6 months back it was mobile app karte hain, and then sometime else it was something else. And I think Prince is absolutely right in saying that it's just another technology, it's just another option. It is a very significant option with some very deep consequences, so you don't treat it lightly. But at the same time, cloud smart is just smart. There's no, anything else.
Thank you all for your views. Prince has raised his hand.
I just want to add on to what Mr. Vinod said. See, two things. One is, I don't want to discount the first part of the presentation done by Nikhil, because more than just cloud and hosting, there's a lot of tool sets that they're bundling together. That makes it smarter. That takes it to a whole different level. Now, leveraging that is not that easy. That requires you to know what you're using it for. You need to have a clear business case, a big business purpose, and you need to go through the due diligence. Only then can that become useful. Otherwise, I think bulk of the conversation just becomes cloud and hosting and putting something there. That's not it. There's a lot more. And I think that's where the real play is going to be now. And I think that knowledge being transferred to existing organizations, that can be a bit of a game changer. Is what I feel. So I just want to add that as a qualification, and I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I think we really summoned the topic, cloud-based strategies. I think we need to have strategies to unlock the insights which are there in efficiency, agility, and innovation. So thank you so much, I think.
Thank you.
And over to you, Fraser. And thanks to the participants also. Thank you, Tushar, Prasad, Prince, Vinod, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Robin, we missed you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Kamdin. Thank you very much for summarizing the entire panel discussion and coordinating the responses to all the relevant questions raised by our attendees. Truly valuable takeaways from that session. With this, we bring today's virtual conference to an end. Today's session wouldn't have been a success without the active participation of all our esteemed panelists and delegates. I would like to thank each one of you for taking time out and being a part of this virtual conference today. A special thanks to Google Cloud and InfraBeat for their support to this initiative, without whom this session wouldn't have been possible. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. It was great to be in your company this afternoon. Take care, everyone, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you.